What are bonds? Bonds are used by governments and corporations to raise money to be paid back at a later date. Bonds are sold to the public, and in turn the holder of the bond is paid a fee known as the coupon payment. This payment can be made either semi-annually or annually. Then, eventually, at the maturity date of the bond, the issuer of the bond, that is the government or corporation, pays the holder of the bond the par value or face value of the bond. This face value payment is often accompanied by a final interest payment depending on the terms and conditions of the bond. Let's see an example. Here's an image of a bond I found on the internet. It was issued by the Reserve Bank of Australia. Here, the $20 is the face value or par value of the bond. It's what the original buyer paid for the bond. Or, in other words, how much money is loaned to the seller of the bond, in this case, the Reserve Bank of Australia. The 5.25% is the coupon rate of the bond. That means every year the holder of the bond is paid 5.25% of the face value of the bond per year. Indeed, we see at the bottom coupons which can be removed and redeemed for payment. 5.25% of the $20 par value means an annual payment totaling $1.05. So there are alternating payments of 52 and 53 cents to be sent to the owner of the bond every 6 months. Indeed, this is the origin of coupon rate, a term that exists to this day. Of course, today payments are made electronically and without the need to contact the issuer of the bond to send payments. Note that payments are always paid in the local currency, so in this case, that would be Australian dollars. We see at the top the maturity date, November 15, 1987. That means on this date, the holder of this bond would have been paid back the par value, or in this case, $20. After this final payment is made, then, this instrument is closed. Notice something else. The bond was issued in February 1966, so the time to maturity is slightly more than 21 years. This period is known as the term. We should also note there are bonds that don't issue periodic interest payments. Such bonds are called zero coupon bonds. The holder of the bond is paid only at the maturity date. For a buyer to profit from the bond, she would buy the bond at a discount to the par value of the bond. Such bonds are usually sold by governments and not corporations. In this example, we have a treasury bill, also known as a T-bill. We see there's no interest payment and the face value of this instrument is $100,000. And the due date, in other words, the date when the face value is paid, is 1 year after the issue date. So the term is 1 year. But if the document states there's no interest payment, does that mean there's no interest associated with this T-bill? Well, there is an effective interest if the bond is sold at a discount to the face value. Let's make up an example using this T-bill. In the United States, such instruments are sold at auction. So let's say the winning bid for this T-bill is $95,000. The buyer of the bond in this case gives the U.S. government $95,000. Then, at the end of 1 year, she receives the par value, or $100,000. This $5,000 difference can be viewed as interest given to the buyer. Because the term is exactly 1 year, calculating the interest rate should be pretty straightforward. The buyer lent $95,000 to the government for 1 year and received $5,000 on that $95,000. So the effective interest rate is $5,000 divided by $95,000, or about 5.26%. Note in this example the math is simple because the term is exactly 1 year, but your annual interest calculation would be slightly more complicated if the term is different from a year, such as, say, 6 months or 2 years. And there you have it. I hope you now have an understanding of why bonds are issued and how they work. Thank you for watching.